all right, all right, all right, all
Settle
right.
down. Settle
It's
down,
okay.
everyone.
If you happen to not have a job right now and you're graduating or don't have an internship, this is the episode for you. Our we take like an hour ish and talk about all of the things you should be doing right now if you want a job or an internship and don't have one, how you can spend the time in between now and getting a job, and what it's going to take to get the job you want in a super competitive market when all these companies are cutting costs and hiring less and less people as expenses go up. And we talk about who you should be talking to, what you should be studying, what you should be practicing, and then maybe a few creative ways you can spend your summer or the next 6 months that we'll call like a little bit of lag time between graduation and when you get that job that's really going to be the start to your career. So
Yeah.
Alex, what should the listener pay attention to on the episode today?
I think that the listeners need to pay attention to how the at school may be up, but the studying's not over. Now, instead of learning about differential equations or how to market this year's revenue chart, it's time to study resumes. How do you build a strong resume? How do you kind of get yourself into these positions and these opportunities that we mention throughout the episode and get yourself into a job? And that starts with the resume. It's your first step into getting the position. And I think going along that, you need to kind of take a step back and say, hey, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be in 6 months, in a year, 5 years, whatever it may be? And pick a path and kind of commit to it for a little bit. Because at the end of the day, if you don't necessarily have a set focus, you're just wandering aimlessly then at that point. So I know it's a heavy topic. Lastly, I think this one's a little bit on the brighter side, but there is a little opportunity that may be arising for the Project Rookie listeners that you're going to have to listen to the episode to find out for. But I think you're really going to want to take advantage of this one because it's a good one.
Yep. Be intentional. We talk about being intentional and just figuring out a focus. And if your focus is getting a job, take what we talk about in the episode and run with it because that's what you want to do. So here's your class number one, and then you head to YouTube University or wherever else to have classes 2, 3, and 4. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. I think it's super relevant, and I think it's a really good one. Welcome to Project Rookie. I'm Jet.
And I'm Alex. Whether you're in high school, college, or taking the first steps in a new career,
We're here to uncover the promising tactics, genuine struggles, and inspiring victories that are supercharging the next generation of achievers. Thanks for tuning in.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual speakers and do not reflect the official policies or positions of their respective employers. Individuals on this podcast are not licensed financial or investment advisors, and its contents should not be used as investment advice.
all right. Welcome back, or I should say welcome back to me because I wasn't a part of the episode last week. I'm just kind of finishing up studying for finals right now. I'm about to graduate, super excited for that. We have a really interesting episode here today. Right, Jet? What do you
Yeah.
think about this one?
Alex was busy being a good student.
Which is very important, everyone.
Yeah, so it's close to graduation, and especially right now, you might have known you were graduating if you're a senior and be looking for a job, or you might have an internship lined up for the summer, or you might not. And we're here for the might nots. If you don't have a job yet or don't have an internship, you are in the right spot because Alex and I did a little bit of research. We have our own opinions, and we're just going to talk about strategies or approaches to not having a job when you graduate. And the idea for this episode came about because everyone without a job after college is like, what do I do? Maybe you're a little bit nervous. Who knows? all the different types of feelings you could be having right now. So we split the episode into 2 parts. First part is things we know 100% you need to do this right now. This is like if you're trying to get a job, if you want a job, we have a list of things that you should be doing, and that will be really helpful for you in finding maybe a position or setting yourself up for when companies start hiring again, because it's tough right now in a lot of fields. And then the second part is our take on, if we were in that situation and some of the things that you should definitely be doing aren't available, what would we do? What is maybe Alex and I's plan if this is happening to us? And Alex is currently in the job search right now. So
I am.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good episode.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's going to be a little different from what we've done before, but I think it'll be cool. And like Jet was saying, we are kind of going to talk about some things that we've set aside and said, all right, if you're able to do it this way, this might be the best way to do it. However, as mentioned too, the latter of the episode kind of will diverge into a little bit of what I'm going to do, as well as what Jet also thinks is kind of the best course of action. So from a more objective perspective of our own opinion, so to speak. So
Yeah.
the first thing we should maybe talk about, and so for those who are in the position where you're graduating, or maybe you're taking a gap year or something like that, and you don't have some sort of employment lined up or some stream of money to come in to pay the bills, what are some things to do? What do you think, Jet? Where do we start with this one?
If I don't have income lined up and I'm graduating and no plan for a job yet, the first thing I'm going to try to do is move home. If I have the opportunity to, if my parents will take me, I'm moving home, and that'll take a lot of the financial burden off. And then the other thing about moving home that's super beneficial, I think, is that it takes you out of your college environment, back to where you grew up. There's less distractions. Your parents are there probably helping you practice interviewing or whatever it is. I think it's a much more productive environment because this is a time where you have to focus and spend time every day out of your own discipline figuring out what you're going to do to get a job. So I think that obviously there's financial reasons, but I think that removing yourself from the temptation to kind of continue hanging out in the college area, or like keeping going to the bars when all your friends have a job and they're spending money, they have money to spend, they have money to do things. Removing yourself from that, it makes it a lot easier to focus on like, hey, I need to prioritize this first, then, we can do the fun things later.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, like you were saying, if you're constantly surrounded by that temptation to go and spend money to just do other things rather than look for a job, to find a place to go, whatever the situation may be, it will be difficult to kind of figure out these things and be able to actually make some progress towards that because as we kind of touched in the attention unit episode, if you're bouncing back and forth doing all these different things, the true quality of work that you can actually get done or the results that you may see won't really ever meet the expectations that you want because you're not giving it the full effort that it requires. But going off of that, so for people who maybe can't go right back home, what would they do in this situation? I kind of think this is one of those things where, okay, you need to look at kind of your own personal finances and say, what can I reasonably do at this moment? Can I go and live off on my own for a few months while I am looking for this job? Do I need to go and find a roommate? Do I need 5 roommates? Like,
I think it all depends on obviously what your financial situation is. If you can make it by yourself for 3 to 5 months, you can do that. You have that option. If you can't, I think that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in our take on what to do, but I think that you want to find a job. Like any job, no matter what your degree is, you got to get some sort of income flowing in to support you if you don't have the option to move home. So, or if you don't have the runway built up to last a little bit out of school. So obviously very strict on spending and figuring out maybe a part-time, maybe even a full-time job at a restaurant, a golf course. I don't know. It'll be summertime for most of you. So find a fun summer job that'll at least give you a little bit of income so you can really focus on searching for and applying for the job that is maybe the start to your career.
Yeah, well said. I think one way to kind of help yourself get into a position where you may get a job or be able to kind of get involved with something that may help you get a job is talking with your professors or reaching out to mentors or something along that you may have made a connection with throughout your time at school. I think this is it's interesting because also this is something that was brought up in the last episode with Jet and Jack. If you haven't heard that one yet, it's a great episode. You should really go give it a listen.
The College Wake Up Call, episode 14.
Wow, 14 already.
That shout out. I know, it's crazy.
It is. But what do you kind of think about that, Jet?
I think you have to ask yourself, how bad do I want a job? How much does it matter to me? Okay. And if it matters to you, if you're like, I want to get myself a job or at least some sort of plan. And I think it's important to say, like, having a job upon graduation doesn't mean you need a job June 1st. You could have something lined up that starts July or August and you've planned in that runway. So I'm saying, like, having a plan or like a job with a start date. And if you want that, that's something that's important to you. You need to go ask every single one of your professors, tell them your situation and ask their thoughts. What would you do? Do you know anybody that's hiring? What should I be doing right now? That is like the number one easiest thing to do. Your professors, you just paid to go to school, which means you paid the professors to help you. So go to where the people are already required to help you. Ask your professors, talk to them, meet them. It's okay if you didn't all school year. They're not going to hate you. It would be better if you met them before.
Yes.
They'd probably be more willing to be helpful. But that is the first place I would look, around your campus. People you know, adults, professionals you know that were maybe in the field or do research in the field or teach the field that you're interested in getting a job on.
One thing that just came to mind for me, and this is kind of where the benefit of me graduating right now comes into play, is I'm not sure for all universities, I know for my university, but you get access to your career services center after graduation even. And you also get access to a very large alumni network that also shares a common interest of graduating from the same school that you did, whether it may be the same major or they're the head of a company and they need somebody who fits your skill set. There's a lot of tools that by being a student you will be able to carry with you, and being a new college graduate you get to carry with you into these first 6 months, first year out of college. And it's really important to, even if you didn't utilize those tools and those resources while you were attending the university, they're free to use. They want you to use them. Somebody gets paid to do it. You paid for it, and somebody gets paid to do it. So they want people to use the services. You should go back, ask your own counselors, whoever it may be, and kind of see if, hey, do I still get to access this? Do you still get to do resume reviews? All of these things. And I think you'd really be shocked by how willing they are to then help you because you show an interest in wanting to continue on after. So I think that's just kind of a little important thing that I wanted to throw in there before we kind of keep on with the normal flow of things.
I agree. And there's another tidbit on top of this. If you are a freshman or sophomore listening to this right now, start doing some of these things early and it'll better prepare you so that it's not like crunch time and stress levels elevate and you're just kind of start getting concerned as you approach graduation. There are things like you can be working on your resume here and there when you have time all throughout school. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, now I need to spend 3 to 5 hours a day on it and figure out how to get a job. You can be looking and putting feelers out and talking to your professors and talking to alumni the whole time you're in college. And then it makes it just a lot easier and less stressful on the back end when you're ready to graduate and trying to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah. I think that's great. And kind of going off how I mentioned the resume reviews and such, those are very important. If you are searching for a job and you see very specific criteria within it, it is kind of important to tailor your resume to kind of fit that description. There are certain systems in play that kind of help weed applicants and such. So if you do have those skills, I think one thing to do then going forward would be studying up on what really makes a good resume. What is a strong resume? Kind of look at examples or tools out there that will help you build these strong things. Yeah, ultimately, the resume is what your first impression. So if you don't have a good first impression, you won't have a lasting impression at all. So
Yep.
you kind of need to set yourself apart from the other people. So if you're well put, even on your resume, it may carry out into what they think of you in your day to day, and you may be more appealing as a candidate than somebody else. So I know you
Yep.
had maybe a few more things to touch about on the resumes.
Yeah, I'm going to say two things. If you've been following Project Rookie since the beginning, actually, let's say on social media, you saw that I did a resume review with Jack Barstead, who was our last guest. And we walked through the most important parts of a resume, how to build it, how to pull the best things out of your experience, and put them into resume bullets that really like communicate a skill and show your impact. And I will put it out there. We'll see what Alex says. But until episode 30, if you DM us on social media, I will personally sit down and look at your resume with you for 15 to 20 minutes. And you got to DM us through social media and follow us. But I'll help you with your resume for like a 15, 20-minute session if you reach out on our social media. That's Project X Rookie on Instagram. Find us on Instagram.
Jack did end up getting a job pretty soon after working with you, and he did experience a lot of feedback and good results that he wasn't really experiencing before talking with you and having you kind of glance over it. So
that's a great point. I probably should say that.
I
Add
know,
some
but
credibility to my pitch.
I get you didn't want to.
Yes, I'm good at this. Sure, I'll add that credibility. Jack, who I helped with his resume, was not getting responses from employers. We fixed up his resume. All the employers were responding. He had 2 job offers and actually was able to negotiate his salary as an intern between the 2 job offers by leveraging one or the other. Go back and listen to the episode. We talk about that more, not standard practice for anybody to do. But if you do want to play that game, we talk about it in that episode. So yeah, the reason that I got good though at writing resumes was I literally studied resume writing for probably 2 to 3 hours a day when I was like really thinking about figuring out what job I wanted early. I rewrote my resume and sent it to a previous job offer and actually got an increase in my salary from the redone resume. But it seriously pays off. Like, my advice is figure out the resumes that are getting people into companies like, or universities like Harvard or companies like McKinsey. You might not know what McKinsey is, but they're any super competitive company. And then when you take that same resume, that like exceptional resume, and give it to a like less competitive company. I'm not saying good and bad companies, but like there's insanely competitive companies and like less competitive companies. Those companies will see your resume as like top tier because they're usually losing people with that resume to like companies that are extremely competitive. So it makes your life easier on the back end if you really put a lot of effort into a great resume. So YouTube is like amazing for this. There are so many videos of people that will be like, I just got accepted at this job with this resume. Here's what I did. And watch 50 of them, like all different things, maybe, and especially the ones that are like at companies you would want to work for, at least in your field. Like if you're an engineer, or let's get more specific, a mechanical engineer, you're like mechanical engineer resume accepted at X company, and watch all those videos. And you'll just start learning how to write your resume in a way that's actually working. Obviously, watch YouTube videos in reverse order, like get it to filter for the most recent ones. So like you can be seeing like as close to real time what's working as possible. But I think you don't think about studying how to write a resume, but it will take you 4 days of 2 hours a day watching videos to figure it out.
I think even if you come across someone with a similar profession or actually the job that you want at a certain company that rivals one that you're trying to apply to. I think it could even go to say that looking on LinkedIn and seeing if that person's resume is available, you could even see what kind of they've done to also secure that job and kind of weasel their or not that was bad kind of work their way into different companies and such based on their own experiences. So I think that too could kind of be beneficial if maybe the traditional reading up in the books isn't something that you like to do. You could take learn by example, see what those in the position actually did to get there. So
Yep. One last thing about resumes. In Jack's episode, I take like a 5 minute, 3 to 5 minute kind of cameo on how I think about resumes. And I think it's pretty valuable. It's like a three things to really care about in your resume. So go back and watch that if building a great resume really interests you.
Yeah.
What's the
So
next step?
it's the next step would be taking advantage of school events and opportunities that being a student allows you to get into. Whether that's the career fair, a conference that students get to attend for free, or just a coffee with the dean even or something like that. Who knows? Any sort of situation that kind of puts you in the room or talking with the right people to land you in the right place at the right time. I mean, there's nothing better than that. Getting a one-to-one, face-to-face meet and greet with the person who may help you get your next job that you might want. So,
Yep.
yeah, you gotta attend things that are offered to you if they're free, especially.
Yeah, I mean, there are resources that you can still take advantage of, like we were just talking about as an alumni or a recent grad. But one thing, especially your second semester or right out of school, like taking full advantage of the career services and events that are kind of like around careers or major specific events is huge. We have this mutual friend that kind of down to the wire got his job last year, got a job, I think June 1st or something like that. And don't quote me on that, but it was right at the end of school. And he said that he only did one career fair right at school. He only did one right. And what he meant was at this one that he did right, he before the career fair looked at the entire list of companies attending the career fair. And then he looked at what jobs they're hiring for, narrowed it down to the companies that were in his field and hiring in jobs he would want to do. Then he researched those companies, and maybe it was like 3 or 4 by the end. He researched those companies, looked them up on LinkedIn, kind of got a vibe for them, and then went to the career fair specifically to 3 or 4 booths and talked to the people at the booths or the recruiters and learned a ton about the company, but was also able to impress them because he spent a lot of time at each of those booths because he wasn't busy walking around getting swag like everyone else does at the career fairs, getting free stuff, and then ended up one of those 3 or 4 companies hired him. So he just felt like his advice. I called him the other day because I was like, hey, this happened to you. What should we talk about on the pod? And he was like, take full advantage and really be intentional. You can be so intentional with who you talk to at the career fair, and don't waste your time on like spending energy and time thinking about companies that aren't hiring for what you're looking for at the time. If you're in a spot where you need a job soon, you have to be intentional with your time. Like, is talking to this company going to lead me to a job? Probably not if there's no openings at that moment, like during crunch time. Obviously, if you're younger in your college career, you should talk to as many as possible and really get a landscape for all the companies and all the careers and all the positions that are possible. But we're talking about right now, it's crunch time. What you should do? You have to be intentional with how you spend your time. That's intentional with studying for your resume, intentional at career events, intentional with time with the Career Services Center. Those things, it's all about just putting all of your focus on getting your job? That was a lot.
That was a little bit. I'm just kind of processing it all. Yeah, I mean, I think even too, I didn't necessarily take full advantage of all of these career fairs and such. I kind of was a little bit later to the game. I think it was about junior year. I think I started attending more of these things. One, I'd have to say there was definitely a noticeable increase in the amount of people I would hear back from and more positive feedback than rather just applying online and just kind of hoping that I get a response back. I do think that you can kind of get a better feel for if one, that company may be the right fit for you depending on how closely the person you talk to is with the actual work you want to do. Like if they aren't just the recruiter, rather they're an actual engineer that works for the company and does what you want to do. I mean, it's funny because right before this episode, actually, I was just reading an email from, I attended a career fair actually like 2 weeks ago, and I just got a follow back from one of the companies, a lady that I was speaking with. You know, that opportunity, even whether it comes of something, would have never even happened had I not chose to not go. And I thought, hey, there's only gonna be five companies at this. It's not going to be that big of an event. I had another friend of mine who actually was running this little career fair, and he had stopped me and said, hey, if you want to go, like it's open, blah blah blah, like you should come. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was like, as you were saying, I was intentional with it. I was like, you know what, I'm going to show up, I'm going to try, I'm going to see what happens from it. And I think it really does go to show it's important to want it and to really try your best to get it, because if you don't put that effort in, somebody else is going to come by and do it for you, and it most likely won't result with you getting the job. It will be them. So it's really important to be to want it and to actually go for it. And so I think with that, the next topic would be to look at the gaps in between the job posting itself and kind of what your skill set is, and see what you need to do to fill that and make yourself more marketable. So yeah, Jet, you got a little bit to say about that?
Yeah. One thing that you can do to really figure out, and this is going to come back to like what you need your resume, what story you need your resume to tell. And where you start looking to figure out that story is what skills or qualities do the people that are getting these jobs have, and then you can use that to figure out why you might not be getting them. So like my friend got a job at this company. I also applied there. Like, let me try and nail down what was the reason. And maybe it's because they knew somebody. And yes, you can brush that off. But like there are a lot of other reasons that some people get jobs and others don't. Number one thing I would do is if you are getting rejection emails or, like, hey, sorry, we went with a different candidate, you can say something like this. I understand the job market is tough right now, and I'm just trying to put my best foot forward. I'm really curious on if you have any maybe pointers or things that I could work on that will help me better succeed when I interview the next time I interview or for the next job that I apply for. I really appreciate you taking the time to consider my application, and thank you for any advice you can provide. Like recruiters are reviewing your resume. They have reasons for why they took one applicant over you. They're usually willing to give you maybe 2 or 3 bullet points on like, hey, this and this are probably things you could brush up on, or like, sorry, we only take people that understand Excel and it didn't seem like you did. Whatever the skill is, like those are things you can either, for the soft skills, things that aren't like something you can really learn very quickly, you should write them down and then figure out how to take experiences. This takes a lot of brain power. You're going to have to think about this, but you go back through your life and probably until maybe beginning of high school, figure out something you did that communicates that soft skill, turn that into a bullet point, and the story of that bullet point is the soft skill. So you really have to sift like, okay, now I understand the main idea of this bullet. Let me find an experience that I can use to say that I have this soft skill and then turn it into a bullet point. So it's like reverse engineering a soft skill you need back into a resume bullet. And I think that that's what you should do with the soft skills. The hard skills, or like the technical skills, those maybe you can like spend an hour, 2 hours a day working on a mini project, or just doing research on YouTube University or Google. And I think that you're not going to be able to learn a skill like super fast, obviously, but you'll be able to talk about it and understand maybe how to talk like people that do really know that skill well, and understand, know enough to be dangerous. That's the goal. Do enough research, figure enough out to know enough to be dangerous. You obviously aren't an expert. You learned it fast, but you know enough to talk about an interview, probably execute if you had to. And you just are much more familiar with the skill by the end of, let's say, 2 weeks than you were at the beginning of 2 weeks. That's how I would approach, those two types of skills.
Yeah, I'd say that's super important, especially for me as an engineer. A lot of people that I speak with always say, yes, there is some credibility to doing the side projects and doing that. And also, they kind of stress the importance of getting actually certified, and kind of how you're saying, show it rather than just saying, oh, I know how to do this. Actually prove it, show the example of that. I think it's one thing I kind of thought of was I was speaking with somebody who had presented in one of my classes just about 2 weeks ago now, but they had kind of, and this kind of goes along the lines of you, if you don't fully understand it, that's okay, or fully know how to implement it, that's all right, but it's the understanding that truly does matter, because for some companies and for some positions, the turnover rate may not be high. They may be looking to retain that person, or retain you for more than just 1 or 2 years. They may want you for 5 years. And so from their standpoint, they're looking at how much can I not only, yes, how much can they do from just a blatant work perspective? Like, how much can they get done in the 8 hours? But they're investing this time, they're investing this money to get you up to speed with what they're doing, how their systems work, and everything. And so if you can really show that you're able to, on the off hours, put a little bit of work into understanding it, it will go a little bit further, because while you're trying to better your own career, these companies are also trying to better the company themselves and get the best people working for them so they can put the best products and the best services. So it does, I think it is kind of a repeating theme for this, is you really kind of need to want it and really have to commit to something to make it happen. I mean, Jet and I, we will take the podcast for an example. It may not be the biggest thing now, but it would never be anything unless we had not, if we never committed to doing this. We never said, okay, we're going to do this. Our first time practicing is next Monday. And next thing you know, here we are, episode 15. So you really have to just put yourself out there and try. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. You can go and try something else. If you put the right pieces together, it'll all kind of make something that hopefully you want out of it. So,
and I love that you brought up reaching out to somebody that came and spoke in one of your classes, because I think that is a perfect thing that we left out of, like, go back and talk to your professors. If you can go back and find the contact information that they shared, any professionals that came to speak with your class, anyone that came and presented, even like most importantly, kids or alumni that came back to the university from being like 1 to maybe 3 years post graduation. If they're already coming back to help and teach in class, they want to help you. They are going to put in effort to helping you. So if you can dig back through your class materials, figure out who it was, and reach out to those people, that's another huge opportunity for employment right after school.
Yeah, I think it was funny because I I actually stayed after the lecture to talk to him about it, because nobody really asked any questions, and he did actually have some interesting things to say. So I did approach him. I was like, yada yada. kind of do this podcast, and we ask people what they do. So I'm gonna ask you a little bit more on what you do. So
That's
and
a
yeah,
perfect icebreaker.
he loved it. He's like, oh, that's so cool. And then my professor actually then he was like, wait, what's your podcast called? And then I was talking to him about it, and
Let's
it's
go.
exactly, you got to get the word out in any way possible. But I mean, even in that little moment, he did kind of share some businessy skills and stuff that he had learned along the way, and kind of how he was able to get to where he was. I mean, that wasn't anything that was talked about in the class, and I thought that was pretty cool. If they're there to talk to you, they're there to share things with you, so you might as well talk their ear off as much as you can and learn as much as you can.
As Mr. Jack Barstead would say, there is unlimited opportunity in college, and what Alex is just talking about is one of those opportunities to learn. What's up, everyone? Jet and Alex here, and we just wanted to take a moment to say we started Project Rookie because we know that choosing a career or pursuing an entrepreneurial idea can be hard.
We hope that through this podcast, we can create exposure to opportunities, inspire your inner entrepreneur, and create a community for young and hungry achievers just like you. Make sure to follow our podcast on your favorite listening platform or on Instagram and X at Project X Rookie. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Hey, Alex, can I tell you a story really quickly?
I'd love to hear it.
I'm excited about this story. So this is like the story of why I was like, hey, Alex, we need to talk about this. So when I was a junior in college, I went to an event, like we've talked about industry events. It was an event that I attended as a student, but where a bunch of adults from a certain industry come together and talk about that industry, network, learn, meet, all those things. I looked at who was going to be at this industry event. Not all who was going to be there, but who was speaking on panels or teaching or doing a session, whatever you want to call it. And I found this guy. I was super interested in what he was doing, but my student group had something planned during the time he was speaking. Our events finished at the same time. So after the student thing was done, I ran across the conference, went to his panel that he was like walking out of the door of. And I was like, hi, I'm really interested in what you do. My name is Jet. Like, can I ask you a few questions or can we talk sometime? And he's like, yeah, for sure. Like, here's my card and shoot me a text and we'll talk sometime. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. I just met him. Well, turns out that guy and I talk every other week my junior year. We have been like in constant contact, and he's really helped me with a lot of things in my career and became a sort of mentor, right? But the coolest thing is that I was just at another conference as a graduate, and a student that recognized me came up to me and was like, hey, my name's XYZ. What do you like? Are you having a good time at the company you're at right now? I know you just graduated from here. And this is my first time meeting that student, but I was like, yeah, of course. But tell them all about what I do, what I like, what I don't like, and what I learned in school, or just some advice. And I was like, here's my number. Text me anytime. I'm happy to help you, with whatever you need to do. The next day, literally the next day, gets a call that his internship is canceled for the summer, and they canceled all their other interns. So he calls me. What do I do? And that's why this episode's out. But the point is that 20 minutes later, I set him up with an interview for the guy that I met junior year and still talk to at a different conference. And now he's interviewing for him. So that student just like right place, right time, and something bad really happened. And then the fact that he reached out and met me just gave him this 180, like, okay, now I actually have this really cool opportunity actually. So I met someone at an event, a networking event, that then a student who met me at a networking event is interviewing for. So like that is just like a full circle moment, and like totally the Project Rookie message, like all this stuff coming together. But there is opportunity. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to like be open to things to get these opportunities. But it's not always going to be handed to you like that. But if he didn't talk to me at this conference, he would have never known that I know somebody that's looking for an intern. And there's so many instances or just stories of things that happen like this. So I just wanted to tell that story quick before we hop into our take on maybe some things that we would do right out of school. But ain't that cool, Alex? Ain't that cool?
I'd say that's the damnedest thing. No, I mean,
thought it was cool.
I know you just said some may say that potential opportunity could have been handed to them, but I do want to back it up, and I know you just were, by saying they took the chance. They said, hey, I'm gonna go up to Jet and I'm gonna ask him if we can connect, if we can talk more, and that led to something great. And I think, if anything, the message from there should just be, don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing that somebody can say to a question is no. I mean, that's it. I mean, there's going to be plenty of no's. And so, yeah, with that, I think as we're kind of getting a little more opinionated, let's talk about what we think.
Yeah, no, I agree. So my take, and I know that you have, like the plan you're probably going to implement, or you're actually probably in the middle of executing right now to get a job. But right as we started out, the first section, if the same thing applies, you don't happen to need the money, or you're in a financially stable situation, the easiest thing you can do right now is go work for somebody for free. Somehow find somebody in your industry, and that could be in the form of job shadowing. Hey, I'll be an intern for free, whatever it is. Are offering your time. Like, I know the market sucks right now. I know that costs are tight. I am just a student that graduated. I really need experience somewhere, and I'm willing to work hard, give you my time, and not get paid for it. The reason that I think that this is super attractive, if you have the opportunity to, is because if you're a hard worker and ambitious, the odds of them just hiring you after like a month or two are huge. Like, it's probably likely that if you put in the right effort, if you suck, you suck. Like, that's that. But if you don't and you put in the effort, let's avoid sucking. So put in the effort, work hard, get to work early, like all the things that we talk about on here. If you execute the plan, the Project Rookie plan, okay, they're probably just going to hire you later, because it's now more work to let you go and teach someone else how to do the things you started doing than just be like, yeah, you know what? Alex is a great fit after all. Like, I guess we do have the budget.
Yeah.
Or you meet people there. Like, you meet other people, like, hey, do you know anyone with opportunities? Do you know anyone with opportunities? Like, I'm looking.
Yeah. I think it's really, it's crazy how you just need to ask and see. I don't really want to keep bringing that up, but it is important. Yeah. You never know who someone else knows. So it's always worth the shot. And I think it may seem a little different to be told, go work for free for a little bit, but it really is a great thing. One, it allows them to kind of get a free trial period, which is no risk for them. So that's a bonus. And two, it allows you to get a free course in a sense. You get to pick, you'll definitely learn some new skills. You'll get some professional development along the way. While you may not be getting any monetary pay or incentive for your time there, the long-term benefits of free work, or just a part-time internship that's unpaid or something like that, or just volunteering for the company, depending on the line of work, just being around everybody, it really goes further than sometimes having that direct skill even on your resume. Who knows, if you're already in the place and you know how it's going and you've learned it from their side of things, sometimes that's more comforting than just knowing you can do it by the book. So it's a little bit of a different take on it, but that's kind of how I look at it. There's a lot of value in really getting the hands-on experience and doing the tasks that I don't necessarily is always replicated in an academic sense.
Free learning is, and I guess it's not really free. You're technically paying them what you would make to learn. It's invaluable. And then the other cool thing is, if you ended up finishing that, the next interview you go into, you're like, I tried really hard to get a job. Nothing was connecting. I was like, okay, I problem solved. I'm going to figure out how to get the experience anyways. So I went here, I offered them my time for free, and I learned all of this stuff. That's the kind of problem solver I am. And that's why I think I'd be a good fit for your company. Like that is, I just made a sale. I just made a sale.
I think you're missing even the most important thing, depending on the duration of time spent there. I mean, that's experience alone that can go on your resume.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Like
totally.
that right there, boom, you're already a step ahead than you were 6 months ago, a year ago, with nothing on it, only just a bunch of academic projects or whatnot. Now you have a real company on there and somebody that can vouch for you and say, hey, they were a great worker. They did a great job here. And you can say, oh, I accelerated the work processes, or I helped meet deadlines at a more fit.
No,
but it's all
say
true.
Bad resume points. Don't say bad resume points.
We're getting a little goofy.
All right, so
here.
what is your plan? What is your plan?
Dude,
Tell me.
Right now, so I think one thing that's really important is financial planning and just understanding finances in general, how money works, where it's going, what it's doing. I mean, I am literally 2 days away from graduation, so I still do have a little bit of time. I'm one of those people who is in the boat where I will have some student loans to have to repay. For those listening and aren't familiar with it and they may have loans, it's usually about a 6-month period after graduation hits. That's usually when they start expecting payment back for it. So you can kind of use that as a milestone depending on your situation. Okay, I know that, hey, 6 months from the date, insert X date that you graduate, you need to then be able to write a check for however much it may be. And another important thing, and something that I did myself, is if you did have to take out loans, you should be looking at the loans themselves and seeing, okay, what's my interest rate? How much interest did I accrue? But it's really important to understand all of these things and kind of see what's happening, because you can't really prepare for what can happen if you don't know what will happen. That's kind of one thing for me. I'd like to be a little bit more proactive than reactive, as I like to say. I think it's better to be on top of the situations that you can be, and then when those that are out of your control do arise, it will be a little bit less stressful because you do have kind of a grasp on most of the other things going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, expect the unexpected. You could, in your whole job search process, be applying, get nothing for 6 months, and the next day get an interview of it scheduled for 3 days later and be hired in a week. Things move so fast. You have to, whatever the case may be ready for the job if you get the job. If you're looking for a job and there's certain requirements, be ready for those requirements to be made. Insert whatever you want in there. That's my little blurb on that. But it's important to be ready when the opportunity arises, because you don't want something that isn't directly your skill set being the reason why you can't get the job there.
Yep. I think so.
Make sure all your boxes are in order before you go and apply, or else there may be some surprises in the end that you can't avoid.
Yeah, I mean, understand what you're applying for and make sure you're ready for that. I think that obviously there's a lot, certain majors and certain fields of study, it actually is normal to get a lot of no's and one yes. Like engineering maybe being one of them. I think it actually is one of them where you end up applying to a ton of different jobs. And so the point is, like, you might send 30 applications, and with each application tailored to that specific job. So like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But don't take the rejection personally, because there are all these reasons at play for why you might not have gotten the job. There's no way to account for all of those reasons. And that's why you have to account for them. I guess this is one way to account for them, which is applying to a lot. Like the more volume, the more lines you cast in the water, one fish is going to bite. I think that's huge. Like the volume is huge. Like you have to be doing these things to create your own luck.
Definitely.
The more, like we always talk about, creating opportunity for yourself. All of these things just go into this bucket of opportunity that you're building up so that one of them hits, and that's where you go.
Yeah.
And then you have time to get more picky, specific,
Mhm.
and like figure out, hone in what your long-term plan is. But this is like, let's get a start,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that was a good point, and kind of something I was going to touch on next was even with my own experience. I feel like I was a little bit more picky at the beginning of my job search process, as I was still a few months out from graduation. I also want to preface this. I am not one of those people who's been applying every day. I don't want to give off a false impression and make it scare anyone and think I'm having a problem.
I was.
Yeah. But
Kind of.
yeah, but just to clarify, however, I have been sporadically applying, and I have gotten good feedback and responses, and I have been offered, but however, due to time commitments with other projects, I wasn't able to start that. So just want to get that out there.
I think that one of the things that's super important about this is the follow-up.
Yes.
Like, the follow-up is huge. You have to be able to manage, like,
Mhm.
make sure that if they reach out, you're responsive. Or if you don't hear back within X number of days, probably 3 to 5, send somebody there an email. You can use LinkedIn, the internet, anywhere to figure out who the hiring manager might be.
Yep.
And I think that the other thing, I'm just going to throw this in there, go back to what we said in the beginning of the episode with talking to alumni. If you like a company or looking at a company, come across a company that has a job you want, put in LinkedIn. I'm going to use Marquette as an example, but like X company, Marquette University, or X company, University of Minnesota. And that's going to give you people from that college that are at that company. Boom, there's your list of people to reach out to and be like, hey, I submitted this application, haven't heard back. I don't know how the process works, like hoping to learn more. Just like, a few questions.
Yeah.
We talk about that in Jack's episode. You got to ask the questions.
Yeah.
You got to ask.
So I luckily remembered my train of thought, but however, it was about my picky choosy changing up. So yeah, my job search in the beginning was a little bit more picky. I kind of picked maybe a route that I'd like to go within engineering, and some things I'd like to do that would be incorporated into that. But, as time does approach closer to graduation, as it starts getting into that payback tick down, my search criteria will kind of loosen up a little bit, and it will broaden into maybe some different areas that still just use my general skill set. And I think that's important, is to just be able to adapt to the situation in front of you. And I guess in my own thought, instead of kind of, as you mentioned before, taking that free labor route, or just that free position, volunteering, whatever it may be, if there's a company you want to work for and you have maybe a more broad or generalized skill set, if you're in a technical major or something along lines, it's important to be able to open yourself up, because you can get yourself into a company that you would like to work for, maybe doing a different position or in a different department, but there is the ability to maybe move over horizontally within the company, or some vertical movement to kind of get yourself to where you may be. I mean, I know for me, there's kind of like a technician route that I can go, and it would still use my skills and kind of the knowledge that I've learned over the years, but it's not necessarily, it's more of a kind of a laborer's role. However, the benefit to doing it is I could be working for one of the companies that I would want to
foot
be.
in the door.
Exactly. And while, I may be more of a operating engineer, more hands-on maintenance technician kind of thing, but one, you then learn all of their products. So that right there is a plus. Two, you then are a value to other companies because you know other systems in and outs. And three, you're seeing on a day-to-day what the problems really are with certain machines or certain workflows or whatnot, whatever it may be, depending on what your future goals are in life. You could take that and turn it into something that you wouldn't even need the job that you were just working on. So once again, it's looking for the diamond in the rough, the opportunity and everything. You can't really find it or have it approach you unless you let yourself get there. So you need to really pave it and try and get yourself into the places where you can then have these things happen to you, or you can move up to the actual position you want to be. So I think, you kind of have to adapt. It's really important to adapt.
Adaptability is huge.
Mhm.
I'm gonna like disagree with you on opportunity, finding the diamond in the rough, because a diamond in the rough makes it sound like there's not a lot of opportunity out there. And I think that if you're doing the right things and putting yourself in the right places, meeting the right people, putting in the right effort, the opportunities are
Yeah.
everywhere when you're doing the right stuff. Like, it feels like a diamond in the rough when you're not kind of doing those things, but your opportunities just grow and grow and grow the more you put yourself out there, the more you adapt, the
Yep.
more you're open to new things,
Mhm.
all of those things that we talk about.
Yeah.
But I want to share something that is maybe like a little bit more of a creative route. Let's say you really need you really need the financial support of having a job, but you also need experience to get you to that first like career focused job that's in your field. One thing that I think is super valuable. So like if you can't work for someone for free full time, maybe you can shadow somebody once or twice a week or even once a month through the summer. Like maybe you get 3 sessions in with somebody that's super important at their company or like right next to the role you want to do, something you can talk about. Like, "Oh, I went to this company and watched things happen for 3 days." Like even if it's tiny, try and get that experience. But if you are just needing a job and have to take any job, 2 places you can look are upscale restaurants, like a restaurant where it's expensive enough where you can't just be going every day, but like upscale restaurant or the golf course. If you're at the restaurant, you want to be serving. And if you're at the golf course, you want to be caddying or washing the clubs or working at the restaurant, the golf course too, bartending, whatever. The point is of these 2 jobs is that this is where people with money hang out. And the reason that money matters is because usually it's because of some sort of success earlier in their career. And by working at a restaurant or as like a caddy, you're in a position where the customers or the golfers have to talk to you.
Hmm.
You're getting paid, they are paying to talk to you.
Yeah.
They're paying for food. So like the point is it gives you a really good opportunity to get your face in front of potentially pretty successful people that will allow you to like meet more people, do a little bit of networking. Every time you're at the table as a server, like every hole you're at around the golf course, you're like, "Hey, yeah, I went to Marquette, or I went to this school. Like, yeah, I'm still looking for a job. It's really tough, but I'm interested in this stuff." Like, in all of that small talk, you're increasing your chances of finding an opportunity, and you're making money at the same time.
Mhm.
So, and I worked at a pretty upscale restaurant in Milwaukee and met a few like pretty cool people while I was there.
I mean,
So
that's all you got to do sometimes. Just ask.
it's a job that you can really be intentional with and put yourself in front of people that are likely to be successful. So if you're like and it's an easier job to come across, especially in times where like certain industries are very saturated with people looking for jobs. It's You can almost always get a job at a golf course or a restaurant. It's almost always. I'm gonna give it like a 90%,
Yeah.
but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's work everywhere, whether it's what you want to
Totally.
do or it's just something to get by. I mean, it's a choice at the end of the day. Do you want to have a little bit of extra cash or do you want to just be scraping the bottom of the barrel? It's all up to you at the end of the day. You need to take the chance. You need to pave your own future. It's all up to us at the end now. We're at that age now where there may not always be someone there to hold our hands. So it is kind of the where the learning curve comes of taking the responsibility to seek it out.
It's so cool that we're about to wrap this up with the same question
Mm.
I asked at the beginning. I was like, you need to ask yourself, how bad do you want
How
this?
bad do you want it? I
And
mean, it's
that's
true.
exactly what you just said. Like all of that stuff, you just need to take the initiative
Yeah.
and take the steps that get you where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it from the perspective of if you're unhappy doing what you're doing currently, then go find something else to do because if the
Totally.
situation allows for it. I mean, we sit here and say that, but there's always going to be one person where that's not the case. But when the time does come and you are not liking what you're doing, take the leap, go learn something else.
Yeah.
Just do something. I mean, it's so interesting that we sit here and talk about how to get a job, but we don't necessarily always just say, well, you could also just enjoy life too and kick back. But it's up to you at the end of the day, and you kind of need to choose and pick and say, hey, I want to work the 9 to 5, or I don't want to, and I'm just gonna do this and that, or hang out, whatever. And whatever you choose is cool, as long as you're still being a good person at the end of the day. I mean, I'll throw that in there because I don't, as long as you're being a good human.
The camera can see it, but that's my little picture right now.
Yeah.
Is work hard and be nice to people. That is my.
It's all. Be nice to everyone.
Literally live that. That is my. I don't put shit up on the wall for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, you're just not.
I'm like off the cut today with my word choices, but I hope you guys enjoy and are entertained.
It's
by
all right.
that.
This has been a fun episode. I feel like it's been a little more laid back.
So is that the pod?
I don't know. Is that the pod?
I think that's the pod.
That's the pod then, guys.
All right, and that's the pod. If you enjoy the show, it'd mean the world for you to leave us a review and share it with your friends. Make sure to follow our podcast on your favorite listening platform. And if you're joining us on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our new episodes. Also, check us out on social media. We're at Project X Rookie on both Instagram and X. We'd love to chat with you in the comments or in our DMs. Thank you for listening, and as always, I hope we're helping you take control of what's next. Catch you next time.